Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN0875, VIN875. It is a 2016 8X1, which is ultrasonic blue mica 2.0 with LA10 interior, which is the Stratus gray interior. Obviously, it's not blue, it's wrapped yellow now. In Houston, Texas. It's noted as running and driving with front and rear damage with 110,000 miles on it. So first, a little backstory with this car. It's pretty well known in the GSF community. There's a lot of videos on this car on TikTok and some of the YouTube shorts, things like that. It's pretty well known. It did have TE37s on it, but as the owner said in the groups, the insurance company let him keep those as long as he put the stock wheels back on, so that's what he did. And it was a Lexus driving school car at first, for like the first 7,800 miles of its life. So it's had a pretty hard life to start. The other thing that's a giveaway, other than the service history, which I'll get into, is that it has option D7 checked on the window sticker, which means that's courtesy delivery direct to Toyota TMS. It went straight to Toyota. They had a dealer prep it, and it looks like it was prepped in Florida, and then it went to around the country. But that's where it was delivered new. So production statistics, 269 out of the 2,348 cars were 8X1 ultrasonic blue mica. Of the 269, 71 had LA10. Stratus gray was a 16 and 17 only color. After 2017, so 2018 to 2020, you can only get red or black interior for the US 49. 2016 specifically, 177 ultrasonic blue micas exist out of the 1,417. Out of those 177, 67 had LA10 interior. So this car is one of 67 at its rarest. However, overall, it is an 8 out of 10 for rarity, with 10 being the rarest, because there's only 3.02% of these cars that exist in this color combination for the US 49. And so that makes it a pretty rare car. Carfax, AutoCheck, Epic VIN. My system is down that I'm checking the Carfax and the AutoChecks with, where I get them for like $2 or $3 a piece. So I don't have that for you, but it looks like it's a 4-owner car, maybe 5-owner, because I don't think Lexus titled it when it was under theirs. So basically after 7,800 miles, that became the first owner. Some of the Lexus cars they title, some they don't, and it looks like this was one that was not titled, and it was sold as a manufacturer vehicle when it was sold to the first owner. And so they have to disclose that it was a Lexus car. They don't have to say it's a Lexus driving school car, and they probably didn't, but this car had 7,800 miles of track use, or at least track use very early on, and then maybe it was just driven as a lead follow car or something like that. And we'll get into that in service history. Previous sales, January of 2017, 70,000 miles. That's where it went to its first owner with 7,800 miles. December of 2018, CarMax, $53,000 with 24,000 miles in Irvine, California. Again in CarMax, September of 2020 for $45,000 with 42,000 miles in Texas. And then it looks like there was a private sale, and where it was the person that had wrapped it, it was privately sold to the current owner, who ended up it getting totaled. Not his fault. He was sandwiched between two cars. Somebody was on their phone and pushed them into somebody in front of them, and that's how there ended up being damage on both ends. But it's at IAAI in Houston, Texas. So now onto the photos. The big risk with this car, if you're going to repair this car, is that front grille damaged. The surround is about $500 new if you get it on sale. Otherwise, it's about $700, but that grille is $13,000 if you have to replace that. It's ridiculous for a piece of plastic with carbon fiber on it. But if that grille's okay, then you're probably golden with this car. It's just the regular bodywork, bumper, transmission cooler, hood, rear bumper cover, things like that. A headlight, obviously, those are not inexpensive, but you can get those used, or you can get those off of a 2016 or newer GS 350 with the optional triple beam. Most of the all-wheel drives had them, and some of the rear-wheel drive versions had triple beam headlights. And so you can get those a little bit cheaper. You can get them used for like $2,000 a piece instead of $3,700, $3,800. You can probably still get it done on the cheap for this car. It still looks like it's got some kind of lowering springs or coilovers or something on it. It's got some, pretty good stance to it. If that's the case, make sure it has adjustable links on it. Otherwise, you're going to be wearing out tires pretty quickly as well. Has an aftermarket trunk spoiler, looks like it has an aftermarket steering wheel. The carbon fiber, there's only a couple photos. Carbon fiber doesn't look terrible, but obviously look at the rest of them as well. So let's back up for a minute. Let's take the wrap off and assume it was a clean title car. It's lowered, it's got an aftermarket steering wheel, so a few tasteful mods. Retail ready, so if this car was serviced, it needed no brakes, no tires, no valley plate, anything like that. With 110,000 miles, this car should probably be somewhere around the $40,000 range. And so you have to deduct for the salvage title 30 to 40%. So that puts this car in like the mid to upper 20s, which is retail with a salvage title where this car will be. So if you can't get this car cheap enough to do those repairs, but again, the repairs don't look too terrible on this car. It's just, I think what totaled this car is that it had a lot of, I think what totaled this car is that it had a decent amount of miles on it compared to the average mileage that you see on these cars. So get you a hood, a headlight, front bumper, rear bumper, transmission cooler, and you know, you're in this repair $7,500, something like that. If you, especially cheaper if you do it yourself or use some used parts. If you bought this car for $18,000 or so, that leaves you room for a little bit of profit if you're going to fix it and sell it. We don't know what's hiding under the wrap either. I said I don't like wrapped cars because generally when they sell them, they're hiding something, and so there's a big question mark with that too. But that aside, I think it looks like it's a pretty worthwhile car to fix. The airbags aren't deployed. It runs and drives. And it obviously has a pretty hard history early on, which I'm going to get to here in a minute, but the bones are there. And so I think that it definitely is one that's worth bringing back on the road to the right person. Now, if I see this car for sale for $44,995, you're going to be out of your mind to think you're going to try to get that, because it won't even get that with a clean title. So it's really not well dealer serviced either. Not in the last 6 years or since 40,000. So in the last 70 or so thousand miles, but there was one oil change in August of 2025. So the service history is a big question mark. I would assume that probably a lot of it's been done DIY, which means just basic oil changes, brakes, tires, things like that. But the service history, April of 2016, 1,100 miles, 4 new tires, front pads and rotors, and it says due to overheating and an alignment. A month later, but 1,300 miles later, again, front pads and rotors, and it states that the tires were previously replaced, probably before those 1,300 miles. But like that's really the early evidence of it being a Lexus driving school car. It at least the first 2,500 miles, and who knows after that. After that, there's no other brakes or tire replacements immediately. April of 2018, the JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pump. January of 2019, the low pressure fuel pump was reprogrammed. That is the buzzing or humming that you hear from the backseat. Reprogram the ECM and it goes away. December of 2019, the KLG customer service program was done. So that's the GPS not showing in the right position. So that's done. That's another common issue that these cars have. And then there's a 6-year gap, 70,000 miles. And then there's an oil change in August of 2025 at 109,000 miles. Now it has 106 or 110. So it's not very well dealer serviced. You would obviously you're not gonna have any of the other service records when you buy cars from Copart, unless they left them in the glove box, probably not. But it probably didn't have the 60,000 mile service done, which means spark plugs, belts, things like that. Transmission service, differential service. This car was obviously driven pretty hard early on, so you definitely would look at doing a full transmission service, which is the full 12 quarts, drop the pan, do the filter, and a differential service. Would I buy this car if I'm looking at getting a salvage title car to restore? I think with a lot of the history and the question marks on the service, I would probably pass on this one. But I think for the right person, if you got it cheap enough, it's definitely worth bringing back. It has good bones. It has some questions. And the questions can be answered if you get it cheap enough. And so for me, I would pass, but I think there is a buyer for this car. So that is what I've got for you guys, VIN 0875. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.